joining us today. Here we go. And thanks for everyone to join us for the second briefing ahead of the Paris Summit. And I will directly introduce our first panel, and I'm very happy to be able to welcome Ombeline Gras, who's the advisor to Emmanuel Macron, to the French president for the summit and also for other things, and Ambassador Didier Le Bret, who's the main coordinator for the summit. So what we're going to do is that we're going to start with Ombeline Gras, who's going to tell us more about the objectives of the summit. Then we'll leave some time for discussions, and then we can go on to the organization of the summit and, most importantly, how civil society can participate in the run-up, but then also at the summit itself. So again, thanks a lot from our side, Ombeline and Didier. And Ombeline, if you're okay, I'd give you the floor.
Thank you, Federico. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for the interest and the effort. Many of you are already committed alongside our teams to make this summit a success, and we are very, very grateful. It's really, I'll come back to it, but it's really to us part of the way we have conceived this summit is it has to be your summit as well as our governments, our banks and institutions. We really want to have everyone on board and on stage and make sure that we're building together that financial pact. And that is really important for President Macron and for the entire team. So first of all, thank you for that, because I know it's a lot of effort from many of you. We've received a lot of contributions, and that's really powerful and very, very helpful. So maybe I have a few slides that we may project. I'll go quickly on the first ones because I think you already have an idea, and you've had a first brief with our special envoy last month. Sorry, we have. Voilà, I think we can do this way. So you all know, right? We are in the midst of a global crisis, and we have huge challenges that we need to finance. And I think this is something that is very familiar to you, so I'm not going to go through it. But basically, if we look at the figures that were presented to COP27, we all know there is a $1 trillion gap that needs to be closed to fund our climate and nature needs at the same time as we pursue our sustainable development goals. So that's really the core topic of the summit, is how do we solve that equation by mobilizing sufficient financing. The June summit is really conceived as a catalyzer on a road. So that road that we can maybe date back to 2015, when we had at the same time the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the SDG Agenda, the Paris Agreement. Then on the way, we had several COP meetings. We had the biodiversity framework adopted last year. So now we really have goals that are being set. And we can sort of take stock of all of this, of the fact that the world has changed, and design this new pact. This new pact is really going to be a high-level vision that then is meant to be implemented, or to have to push for ambitious decisions to be taken in follow-up meetings. So I know on these slides there are a few meetings right after the June summit that have disappeared from the timeline, but of course we are targeting the Africa Climate Summit hosted by Kenya. We're targeting obviously the G20 in India, and we're building our summit in very close partnership with the Indian G20 presidency, and that's really important to have this strong link. And of course, the SDG summit, the Marrakesh Assemblies, COP28, and beyond. So sorry, because that slide is very heavy, but maybe just to simplify, basically what we believe we should be delivering in June is threefold. First, we need countries to deliver on their commitments. We have collectively to move, let's say, past these commitments that we made some time ago for some of them. So the climate finance pledge, the SDR pledge, our efforts to solve debt issues through the common framework. So this we have to demonstrate it's delivering, and we will be investing lots of efforts with our partners to make sure that we are delivering. And based on that, we strongly believe that this is a prerequisite to build trust. Once trust is rebuilt, let's say, we can have a new vision elaborated and endorsed by all our partners from all continents. That is a vision that is going, of course, to address quite technical financing issues around reforming our MDBs, the way we're working with our financing instruments, but that has also a very strong political dimension that I think is really important to most of our partners, which is also the way we're working all together, and how do we move beyond ODA and traditional development aids, the way we traditionally envisaged it. And the world has changed since 1945, and we have also to adapt our partnerships to this new world and have really strong country-to-country partnerships on our global public goals. And of course, tackling poverty and building together a stronger world for our planet. So this is going to be a very short declaration with key principles that we hope to see endorsed at the summit. And then I'll finish with that, and then I think Didier will be there to present you more concretely how this will happen. But the third step, we would say, that we want to achieve at this summit is to demonstrate. To demonstrate that actually the world is already moving in that direction, in the direction of that vision, because we already have countries, we already have institutions, banks that are implementing innovative solutions that have increased financing towards those who need it. These are what we call our pioneers, and the tremendous work of the working groups that we have set up for the summit are already showing us that many solutions already exist. Some of them are just in preparation, and maybe we can push for them at the summit. So we really want to have this constellation of solutions, of pioneering solutions that to be showcased at the summit, during the summit. And this is also the place where everyone can have voice to share so their innovations that can change the world in the way the vision is going to be drafted. I think I'm going on my side, very happy to answer your questions, and maybe the floor is to Didier now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ombeline. I think as there was already a lot of information, if that's okay, maybe we already take a few questions and then we go on to Didier Le Bret's presentation. Would that work?
Sure.
Great. So please raise your hand, or you can also use the chat if you have any questions or remarks.
Yeah, Dila, use the chat, and please put your name when you use the chat. That'd be excellent.
Yeah, and actually, even if you don't use it, it would be great if you could just go on to the little 3 dots on the right hand corner of your screen, because we have a few people where we don't have the names.
Yeah.
Just so that I don't have to call on iPhone or something like this.
I'm guessing that was a lot of information that people are still computing. Oh, here we have one from Ekata from Results Canada.
Hello there, I'm Ekta Anjan and I'm from Results Canada. My question is on if I know there's a lot of, thank you so much for the presentation. And like you said, it's a lot of information, but I mean, it's great that there's a lot of focus on climate finance. I'm just wondering if the agenda also includes anything on pandemic preparedness and health in general, because like, for example, even within the Bridgetown agenda, there is a like pandemic preparedness is one component alongside climate finance. So I was just wondering if your agenda includes anything on pandemic preparedness or on health.
Thank you very much for, should I reply directly, right? Or do you want me to group responses? Okay.
Go ahead.
No, thank you for that. That's a very good question, and that allows me to elaborate a little bit. Really, of course, I mean, climate and biodiversity crises are creating additional needs that we have to take into account when we redesign our framework. But really, the objective of the summit is to encompass our entire agenda, and this is absolutely key for President Macron, and I think for most of the leaders who will be coming to Paris, is to make sure that we are ready to respond to the next crisis, and including health crisis. And so, of course, the financing for health will be on the agenda. We really hope that we will be nice innovations and side events that can be showcased aside of the main roundtables, so to allow for deeper dives into the topic. So that's definitely on the agenda.
Thank you. And I see Jörg Haas from the Heinrich Böll Stiftung has a question or remark. Jörg, you're muted.
Yes, hello, this is Jörg Haas calling from Berlin in Germany, from the Heinrich Böll Foundation. I would wish if you could elaborate a bit more still on the outcome. Because obviously the outcome needs to be somehow fixated in documents, and these documents, I see that the momentum one is meant to be sustained. So how exactly, what kind of outcomes do you exactly envisage, and how will this be taken forward?
Thank you very much, Jörg, for that question. I'd love to be able to tell you exactly the detail of the agreement we will get in Paris. It's work in progress, and it's not for us as a host to set the endpoint, right? And it's a process that we are building currently with the work of the working groups, with the steering committee, where we have our main partners sitting. To design that vision that we want to have endorsed in Paris with main principles. Of course, we start having an idea of what these principles should be about, and that will be probably the focus of the coming weeks to get closer to a final text. But as we said, it's built with our partners, so it's not for us to set the definitive drafting now. It shouldn't be like this. Then, of course, I have mentioned very specific outcomes on which we will be very pushy, and your help will be very important. And I know I can count on you all for this, is on the delivering on our existing commitments. On the one hand, and on the second hand, being bold also in the solutions that we push for this next page, including I don't know, on innovative sources of finance. And so here we're very happy actually to showcase solutions that we believe can work. So this again is also in the hands of our partners, including yourself.
Thank you. Over to Claire Blanchard from the Worldwide Fund now.
Thank you very much. And sorry, because I actually possibly missed some of your presentation. I was running late. So I apologize if some of that is a repetition of what you've said. One thing is I was wondering how the short declaration will be anchored into processes that are happening right now, from the MDB reform to the debt restructuring conversations, the G20 with India, Brazil, South Africa presidencies, you know, with Barbados, etc. Are all those actors invited, and what's the sort of vision of how to anchor this declaration into those? And linked to that as well is how you may see a role for the G7 Alliance on Nature Positive Economy that was recently announced as the G7 Ministers of Environment play a role, at least in contributing to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So on our partners, all those that you've mentioned are very key partners in that process. The hosts of the very important upcoming events, Barbados, Kenya, India, the United Arab Emirates. All these partners are absolutely key to the conversation, and Brazil with the upcoming G20 presidency, the United Nations with the summit as well. And I hope I'm not forgetting forgetting anyone, and please forgive me if that's the case. But all those whom I've mentioned are very, very closely working with us, and we are very closely working with them to make sure that what we do in June is creating momentum that will allow delivering by their own summits. So what we really want to do is to have the different agendas cross at some place where we can have people that are coming actually from sometimes different tracks, different conversations that intersect. And what we want really is to deliver a vision that encompasses these issues, elevate a little bit the conversation to just boil it down to a few key principles on which we all agree, and then that should guide us all through the upcoming milestones. And that's really what we really want to achieve. And the second question on the involvement of ministers for environment, I think if I record it well.
Sorry, more on the G7 Alliance on Nature Positive Economy that was announced in the communique of the Ministers of Environment of G7.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that works are interconnected because the members of the G7 are all members of the working groups, and we're working closely with Japan as well. Well, you see, I was sure I was going to forget one of them. It's like the next one with the G7 summit in May. So of course G7 to us should be also helping us on the way towards June, and the achievements in the climate and environment tracks are really important and going to help, we hope.
Thanks a lot. And I'm now going to move to the chat. So these would be the last questions to Ombeline Gras, because I want to make sure that we also have enough time to discuss the organization of the summit with Ambassador Le Bret. So first of all, we have, sorry, I just need to find it again. A question from Adam McGibbon from Oil Change International. It would be great to know where the fossil fuel public finance phase out agenda fits into the conference. And if you allow, I will just add two more questions, which, I mean, I'll summarize them to two. So from Sharon Sedi from the One Campaign, he had a follow-up question on pandemic preparedness. They're basically asking where other development issues fit in, financing for other development issues for eradication of extreme poverty, food security, education. And then how would success look like for the June summit? For instance, whether there will be any progress on the MDB reforms, new financing mechanisms emerge from there. Also the question on debt distress. I know that this is a lot, but I think these are all very valid questions, so I hope we can all address them.
Thank you very much. I see the challenge is getting higher, but it's good. So on the clarification on the coverage of the summit and whether we go beyond climate and pandemics, that's the case. And sorry, because I've been very quick on the start of my presentation, because I assumed this had been covered earlier. But really, the objective is to forge a pact on financing for SDGs as a whole, including the climate crisis, including the biodiversity crisis. Is really reconciling all the triangle. That's how the president presents it. But because, and we all know, and we're all convinced that there are strong synergies between all these issues, and actually we should invest in all of them in parallel, and that will help us move forward on all the objectives at the same time. So obviously poverty, food security, education are high on the agenda, and we'll also welcome side events on these issues, obviously, and hope that there will be speakers that will, of course, cover these topics as well in their speeches. Then on the on how success look like, if we can have a bold and ambitious vision that actually gives a clear mandate to all of us to move ahead on this level of very high level of ambition, linking all agendas, having NDBs working better, having identified new resources, solving the debt distress. I think like all the issues you've mentioned should be covered in that agenda. I'm not saying that we're going to solve all the issues in Paris, and we are not crazy enough to believe that. What we want is to have a moment when we all agree that these are important issues, that we need to solve them, and to start sketching solutions and giving ourselves a mandate to land by COP, by G20, by Marrakesh assemblies on this and that issues with like a clear mandate. I hope that's clear enough. And sorry, on the fossil fuel public finance phase agenda, that's a really important piece of the conversation, of course, that has happened in the past few years. And we should definitely be able to articulate what we're doing, of course, with the policy decisions taken by each of us, including on fossil fuel and on that very specific issue, but also beyond. And this will definitely be, I mean, fossil fuels will definitely be a big piece of the climate conversation in the coming months, not just in Paris, but of course at COP28.
Thank you so much, Ombeline. This was very helpful. I hope I can speak for everyone here. And now I would like to transition without any further ado to Ambassador Le Bret, so who has the hard task of imagining how the summit would go and organizing it. And I see that there are also a few questions on registration, visa application, and so on. Over to you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Frédéric. A hard task, but for a noble cause, so I'm happy to be with you on this great adventure. I don't think I have to elaborate. It's okay? Can you hear me? Okay. No, I don't think I have to elaborate much with you to convince you that civil society will be, as Ombeline already said, a key element in the success of the summit. For those reasons that has been already raised by Ombeline, which is the vision is concerned, as our collective capacity to restore trust and to find relevant outcomes, to convince that there is a way to move forward. So this is the first. The first element. The second element is the contribution of civil society will be really key to the success of the summit. Is that for the last, I mean, two decades, your expertise collectively has tremendously improved, and on very specific and technical issues like debt, taxes, international taxes, and the overall reforms of IFEs. I mean, your analysis have to be taken into account, and I think that that's a key element in the overall reflection. The third key element for me to the success of the summit with through your participation will be your considerable capacity of advocacy before the summit. We need definitely to be backed by international, national public opinions, and you're very well placed to help us in this way, and in order as well to target, I would say, key leaders in the world, to be sure that our summit might be a success. And last, for the reason we have to work very closely is that there will be an after the summit, and I mean, you have to play an important role in order to be sure that there will be a serious follow-up of the summit. So during the summit, it's obvious that, and I've come to that right now, the civil society will have a tremendous role, but before and after as well. The principles that guide us in our way to structurize and organize our relationship with you are threefold, I would say. The first will be that an equal representation north-south, for the reasons you all know, and in the context of very difficult relationship between North and South, I think the civil society might be a strong element of at least trying to reconcile this. The second element, or second principle that guides us is the co-construction of the summit, meaning that we'll need to be sure that you will be part of the process with the states and other stakeholders like firms, funds, foundation, and so on and so forth. Before the summit, during the summit, and that's why we have set up a summit that will be there will be no on, no off. It will be all, I would say, inclusive, and in a sense that everybody, every voice, every kind of expression during the summit will count. For instance, the first day, as you know, after the opening ceremony, we'll have 6 round tables that are kind of a hybrid event. You'll have both member states, you'll have a head of state of government, you'll have civil society, we'll have other stakeholders from international organization. So the 6 roundtables will be of that kind. So it will give equal voices to everybody. So it will be a co-construction in the way we have structured those 6 roundtables all over the day. And in the meantime, we'll have 20 side events. I'll come later on this, that will touch upon all themes that you have just mentioned with Ombeline in all spectrum of either or both SDGs and climate questions. the premises are the Palais Brongniart, as you know, which has unfortunately limited capacities. That means as a maximum 800 people at the same time. So that means not taking into account those people who are working for the summit. That means we'll have, if we take it in two parts, we'll have 400 more or less officials and 400 people coming from civil society. So that means at least 200 people coming from the south. So I think it's important. We show that it is a summit that gives a voice to everybody. So as for the side events are concerned, as I told you, there are 20 of that kind as a whole. But as you may know, there will be other possibilities for those who want to bring some news or trying to promote their case. We can organize what we call a labellisation. That means you won't be in the premises of the Palais Brongniart, but you can organize it where you stand, and it will be part of the summit. There will be two types of side events: panels and workshops. Sorry, the panels will be 40, 50 people who can be accommodated, and the workshop might be up to 100, 150. We sent a note, a concept. We sent a paper that details the way to make proposals. I'm sure, Frederic, you have already circulated that. The key element for us right now is to get as soon as possible a concept note from those who want to be part and generate this kind of project like side events, and will be our utmost effort to provide you with an answer around mid-May. So you'll have then 1 month to fully prepare the side event. That's where we stand as for the side event. I just come back for 2 minutes on the program. As the first day are mainly dedicated to those roundtables and then parallel the side events. The second day, which is, it's not, there is no unofficial part and official part. It's all a program as a whole, as I said, and very hybrid in the way we have been setting it for the 2 days. But what is important to bear in mind is that for the second day of the program, there will be a full reporting from those who have been participating on the roundtable and the side event of the major outcomes. That will be, it will be brought as a contribution to the debate that will be then up to the head of states and government to discuss. So there is a clear link between the first and the second day. So it is once again a summit as a whole, and those are two parts that are perfectly, absolutely complementary, and that's why it's important for you to be part both on the side events and the round table. I may stop there if you want, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. And actually, we already have a few. So first of all, there was actually a question on, because you gave us the number of civil society participants that could join, whether civil society also includes private sector actors or whether they're counted separately.
Unfortunately, it's all included. But I think when I said 200, it's for the southern part. 400, it's all it's for the civil society, which means firms, foundations, and NGOs.
Okay, understood. I also see that there are a few questions on how to submit side event proposals. So we have the PDF that explains the process, and we're going to make sure that everyone gets access to it afterwards. And this is also where you can see how to submit it. And then I...
The key element for the submission of those proposals is that your concept note, in broadly, I would say 3 parts. When the context, why your proposal is relevant to the context of the summit. I mean, it must intercross financing question with the SDGs or the climate transition. That's the first thing, and you must bring with you, I would say, the full panel who is gonna participate, so that we are sure that at the end of the day, once we have collected all your proposal, we might merge some of them if they are complementary, or challenge you to get on board other panelists or people, and will help you as well to find the right public with you, as we'll have a clear vision on who will attend during the summit, so to be sure that you will be interact and that your discussion will be fruitful, especially for those, for instance, who want to scale up their project. There might be some side events who will be merely showcasing some good experiences in certain fields, and they just want to scale up to meet, for instance, I don't know, representatives of private equity or bankers or whatever. So to be sure that we'll help you to meet this public, you will have to have a clear picture of what are your main targets.
Thank you. And maybe actually a good follow-up to that one is because you're asking us to identify already the participants of potential events. And the question was whether the Élysée or the French government could help with invitations to officials that also take part in the side events. So whether you could, for instance, provide a list of officials just so that we have an idea and then can also include them in our side event proposals.
Under the strict control of Ombeline, I would say that right now it's a bit premature to give you a full list of those who will attend the meeting. We have a kind of idea without giving any kind of secret. I would say that we feel that there will be a very high level participation as a whole. So we'll be more than happy to help you to find and identify the right head of state of the government that could attend your side events. And we'll try and do it in a bit in advance.
Thank you. This is great to hear. There was also a question about journalists and the accreditation process. This is maybe also something where, I mean, maybe you can respond to it directly, but otherwise, obviously, we're also happy to send around any further information or links. And I see that Cal actually already put up the side event process paper on the website.
We'll open up quite soon. I mean, the website of the summit, and from there we'll open up as well the accreditation process for journalists and others.
And for the logistics, is there or for participants representing coming from the Global South, will there be any funding?
It's part of the overall process. I mean, we have, as you know, a strong link and partnership with the Paris Peace Forum, and I think we'll be in a position to accommodate almost all representatives of NGOs coming from the south that will be happy to join us in Paris. So that means almost 200 people. It's part of our budget.
Okay, but I wanted to clarify this point. It's very important, but it's great to hear. So,
but if they want to be, I mean, on their own and travel on expenses and accommodate themselves, there is no problem neither.
Okay, good to hear. And then I have maybe the two last questions, which also relate back to the substance of the summit. So there is one from IMAL, which is a think tank based in Morocco, about the climate financing, and notably the new collective quantified goal, which is said to be agreed to replace the 100 billion goal by COP in 2024. There are probably a lot of linkages and a need for leaders level engagement. I think we saw, if I can add on the slide, that one objective of the summit is to close the financing gap to the 100 billion, which is the current goal. But the question here is whether the summit will also look into this new collective quantified goal. And I just add the second one, which is the question of the gender lens for the summit, given the greater impact upon women from climate change. And this question comes from Savitas UK. I don't know, is this Ambassador Le Bret or Ombeline Gras who wants to take those two?
When things go up to 1 trillion or few billion, I think it's to Ombeline to answer.
Thank you, Didier. Actually, so sorry, because I'm not sure I caught the first part of the question on the 1 trillion. So I just want to make sure I reply to the correct question, if you don't mind. And maybe while is it? Oh yeah, it's in. I see it's higher up in the chat, right? It's on the 100
exactly.
billion
It's the question about the new climate financing goal that is going to be set by COP that will replace the 100 billion we have currently, and whether there are linkages with the UNFCCC process.
That's a very good question. So as we said, we're not there to replace existing tracks and conversations and negotiations. So we're not going to interfere in the ongoing conversations. But what we want is to elevate the global level of ambition. So we really hope that, of course, through the commitments, the endorsement of a high-level vision in June, we will reach more ambitious agreements at COP. So that's the interaction that we hope. But we're not going to enter in the detailed negotiation process. I hope, of course, there are a number of linkages, as you say, because in the end, that's all about how we're going to finance what we need to finance together. But here I want to be clear, because I understand it can create also a little bit of anxiety that we come and interfere with existing tracks, and that's really not our objective. Our objective is just to provide very high-level leadership to make progress in all these tracks. Then on the gender lens, it's a very good question, and it's a very important point. I should have mentioned it. It's really key to us that we are sure that everything that we're doing is actually taking gender into consideration. It has to be somewhere in the vision statement, of course. Also, and here, the floor to Didier, because you're really the master organizer, but that will be on stage. So what we want to see is a gender balance in the representation. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
No doubt that will be a key element throughout the summit. Will have as well a side event fully dedicated to the question of gender and financing. So it's there.
Thanks a lot. So we're actually already over time. once again, thank you for taking time to meet with us. I also understand that actually today is a steering committee, so we're even more grateful that you were able to join us. As Cal said, we will collect any information and put them on the web page. So if there's anything else you want to pass on, please don't hesitate, Didier and Ombeline. And now I'm actually going to give the floor to Cal for the second part of our call today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your time from Paris. Moving over to the civil society panel, where we are going to hear sort of updates on advocacy and campaigns and get perspectives on the progress for the summit from civil society. Speaking in the panel is our own Federica, Vice President of Global Advocacy at Global Citizen. We also have Guillaume Campan, who's from Oxfam France, who is their climate lead, and Maimouna Mabey from the Global Citizens African Director will be speaking as well. So Federica is not speaking. I apologize.
I already spoke enough.
Okay, Maimouna is going to speak on behalf of Global Citizens, and then also we have Leah Bouret from Focus 2030 as well. We'd also like to encourage those colleagues from the Global South who have strong perspectives on the summit to share, come on board and share after the panel, because we'd love to get a wide range of perspectives on this summit. So again, once again, please put your questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll be opening them as we finish the panel. So handing over now to, well, let's kick off with Maimouna from Global Citizen. Do you want to start?
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Maimouna Mabey. I'm the Africa Advocacy and Partnerships Director at Global Citizen. I'm just going to share my screen now. I have a quick presentation to share with you.
I think I have to make you a co-host, so bear with me for 2 seconds.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. You're a co-host now, so go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
We could. It's disappeared for a second. Oh, yes, we can. Excellent.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We wanted to take 5 minutes of your time to introduce a campaign that Global Citizen is running. I'm also happy to share that this campaign hasn't launched yet. It's launching tomorrow. So outside of the Global Citizen family, you're the first stakeholders that really get to hear about this campaign before it hits the news rounds tomorrow. The campaign is called Global Citizen campaign is called Power Our Planet, Act Today, Save Tomorrow. This is really for us to get behind and target the different key moments globally for us to be able to campaign on climate action, and also launching it just in time for the Paris Summit as well. The Power Our Planet campaign really is a global effort for Global Citizen to mobilize critical financing for developing countries to fight climate change and eradicate poverty, essentially. Global Citizen, together with Power Our Planet co-chairs, Mia Motley and the government of Barbados and supporters are calling really for a seismic shift in the way the world's financing system works. And also it's urging governments, development banks, philanthropists, and major corporations to give world's poor and developing nations access to financing they urgently need to be able to quicken their transition to clean energy, strengthen defenses against natural disasters, and more rapidly invest in critical health, food, and education programs for their populations. There are major actors supporting this campaign already that have signed on, and a lot more that we're currently engaging, and we'll be able to release the supporters eventually once we launch beyond tomorrow. And Alliance of World Leaders representing both Global North and Global South countries have already joined to support the campaign, alongside Global Citizen and the Barbados Prime Minister. These include President Macron of France, the President of Sierra Leone, the Prime Minister of Spain, as well as the government of Zambia, amongst others. The campaign also has a coalition of civil society organizations that have already signed on to support the key policy outcomes that we're campaigning on. Also include activists, philanthropists, foundation, and the private sector as well. So who needs to take action for the campaign that Global Citizen would launch tomorrow? We're really advocating and calling on world leaders, philanthropists, private sector leaders, as well as multilateral development banks. And also, what can they do? What are we calling and what are we advocating for? For them to really make ambitious financial commitments, unlock critical financing, invest in transition to green energy, as well as increase support for health and eradicate poverty. We have major policy outcomes that we're advocating for. Power Planet campaign really is a year-long campaign, as I said earlier, that's going to target the key global moments in our global calendar, but also we're using the Paris Summit to really ground our asks for the campaign. These are the 6 major asks that the campaign is really advocating for. I'm sure most of you are across the financing gaps, and that's what a lot of you are campaigning for as well. But in summary, really Global Citizen, using our platform and our movement, we're calling on governments most to step up, meet their promises to help the vulnerable countries, to tackle climate crisis, and also most especially to fight extreme poverty as well. With that, we're really going to focus on advocating for freeing up funding through bank reforms as well. We need to free up funding from the World Bank and the IMF and also other development agencies and development banks, which can free up the 1 trillion in financing if they reform their policies and also take on more risks. One major part that we're going to campaign on under this campaign that we're launching, it's also making polluters pay. The biggest private sector polluters, such as the fossil fuel companies, the financial sector, or the transport sector, need to really contribute financially to climate solutions. So those are the major areas that we're campaigning on under the Power Planet campaign. To support this campaign and also to help amplify and the key policy outcomes that we're advocating for, it is also important for us as an advocacy organization to have the global citizens that are really following our movement and signed on our platform to get behind it, as well as our partners in civil society. So with this, we're launching an action tomorrow. The action really is a petition that's going to sit on our website, calling for global financing reform to address converging crises of climate change, hunger, inequality. As these impacts deepen, it is clear that current system, it's not sustainable. So really by adding your voice to the petition and supporting the reform, we can push for change as a group and also demand action from the world leaders and financial institutions. With this campaign, really, our vision and Global Citizen is that together we can create a world that works for all of us. So if you can, we'll be very grateful if you can join the movement to power our planet and sign the petition. I would also share the link to the petition in the chat box shortly once I'm done.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
The final slide, but that's it. So how can you support us partners? First of all, have you downloaded the Global Citizen app? If you haven't, please go ahead and do so. Download the app and install the app. And also you can use that to take action on our platform and sign the petition. If you haven't done that and you just want to go to our website and sign the petition, that's great as well. There are other many ways you can support the campaign. You can film yourself. Messaging brief would be shared tomorrow once the campaign launches. And also using our Power Planet messaging, we're going to share a document that really has the language that you can use for your social media platforms and also send communication to your stakeholders and your followers. Also using our Power Planet toolkit and assets, this would be shared tomorrow. Really, the toolkit just contains language that you can use to post online or share with your stakeholders, as well as social friendly assets. So thank you very much. Back to you.
Excellent. Thank you for that presentation. We want to move on now to William Campagnon from Oxfam France. Again, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat with your name and we'll come to you after the panel. Thank you. William.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for allowing us to present what we are doing in France with French NGOs. From the beginning of the summit organization, we've gathered with several CSO organizations that are present today, such as Global Citizen One, but also, for example, Climate Action Network France and CARE about influencing, but also trying to align around campaigning for the summit in the run-up of the summit, but also during and after the summit. So we had several meetings already with officials, even with Ombeline Gras and Didier Le Bret, whom you have had a chat just before, and we started to have a position paper that sets the basis of our coalition, and we expanded this document also so that we receive the inputs from people from different countries and different organizations. So I won't dig into this, but so after some talks with the organizers of the summit, we secured 2 seats for civil society representatives in each of the working groups around the summit. So that's a good opportunity also to participate and to influence also the discussions that are more technical. So the discussions have started with civil society included, for example, in working group 1 and working group 4. We are still waiting for working group 2 and working group 3 so that we can be involved in them, but I hope that it will happen very shortly. And beyond that, we are also starting to begin campaigning actions, or at least to reflect on what we're going to be doing around the summit. So, for example, CARE has already started a campaign about polluter pays taxation, and so they are asking basically French government to raise a specific tax on windfall profits of the energy, like oil and gas big companies, to raise money to fund loss and damages, for example. I know that one has also a global campaign about World Bank, the mandate of the new World Bank president to also ask several, to influence the new agenda of the World Bank. And as Oxfam, we have released a media briefing for the spring meetings, advocating for a much bigger ambition around funding for development and climate. So that was our false economy media brief, where we basically estimated that the needs until 2030 are around $27 trillion if we want to seriously tackle the needs in terms of health, education, and climate. So that's what we started to do. And in the coming weeks, I know that some of our organizations have plans which are currently being refined. As far as Oxfam is concerned, we at the French level, we are expecting to do probably an event around also the food crisis that is happening in the Horn of Africa and also in the Sahel region, in order to link what's being discussed during the Paris summit and the concrete urgency that is taking place in Africa, in some regions of Africa, for example. We are also considering doing a digital awareness campaign around climate and development for the general public. So these are mainly what I have in mind, at least, and what I can share about campaigning plans around the summit. But maybe I'm forgetting some, and I'm sure that other organizations are also have many things in mind. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And some questions are coming in to the chat as we speak. But first, let's go to Leah from Focus 2030. Do you want to give a quick intervention, Leah, before we go to questions and answers?
Hi, Gail, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Just to say that from Focus 2030, our aim is to showcase, to amplify, and when necessary, to simplify the proposals that are put forward by NGOs, think tanks, and international organizations to feed the debate, but also to try and generate media and citizen attention for the summit. So we notably try and facilitate the dialogue between the French civil society and the special envoys of the summit, Jean-Pierre Landau and Adrien Advocacy, in partnership with the Paris Peace Forum. We already published a dedicated page on our website in French, English, and Spanish, summarizing the issues that are at stake, a timeline of the key moments before and also after the summit, and civil society asks and campaigns. We will enrich it on a daily basis. We notably plan to interview different stakeholders from all over the world to try and mainstream their analysis and their solutions to open the discussion to a wider audience, including journalists and the public. And one last point, Focus 2030 is located 2 blocks away from the Palais Brongniart, where the summit will take place. So we will provide office space for those of you who may need it before and during the summit. So please feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's move on now to some questions. I would just make a quick intervention to say I am collecting or collating policy asks and recommendations to the summit and put together on the event so we can have a full list and an idea of the range of things. So please do send me, and I'll put my email address in the chat, anything that you're preparing, because it'd be great to collect as many as possible. But let's move on to some questions, and there's 2 questions which are kind of combined for you, Guillaume. One from Jorge and one from Diana, saying, could you share the composition of the working groups and the working groups and steering group again? And also, is there going to be a 50-50 split in civil society seats, i.e. 50 North, 50 South split for the working groups, or do you have an idea about that?
So I can answer for the working groups. So there's representation of civil society in the working groups. Yeah, that's right. It was really important for us to make sure that there would be a balance between the global North and global South in the people that can represent civil society organization in the different working groups. So basically, that's what we obtained from the Élysée team after some discussions, and so we were able to submit names. So let me I will put in the chat the list of persons per working group representing civil society, but it's only 2 it's 2 people per working group, so 1 from global North, 1 from global South, except for working group 2, where it was more complicated to find someone, but yeah, that's it. So we have 7 representatives. I will put you the names.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Other questions coming through? I don't have any other questions. Any other questions coming from the floor? Or does other people want to share their perspective on engaging with the summit, with the progress and on the ambitions that we heard from the Elysee and from other colleagues from France? Other sort of perspectives that people have? Are there any questions? Everybody satisfied? Or are people being shy? Oh, there's Sherwin. Apologies. There we go.
No worries. I just put it up now. Yeah, so I actually have a sort of like part question, part concern, maybe. And I already tried to put it into my question before, which is I'm not quite sure where we will land, given that it seems like we want to have everything, or the Elysee wants to have everything in there. And I mean, they already said, of course, that there's a high ambition and that we want to like level up the ambition of global leaders in general. And this is and rightly so. So this is a good thing. But I think we have to also be as concrete as we possibly can. So if we want to go in there, and we don't expect like everything to be solved there, obviously not. But like I think it would make sense to narrow down where we can actually see success. Say success could be agreements on a certain matter, like I don't know, MDB reform or debt distress or so on and so forth, and then maybe decide on a roadmap after that. But for me, it's not yet clear what actually is at stake. Seems like everything can be discussed there, and that can actually work to our disadvantage, I'm afraid. So that would be my concern, that it's too much in one summit to be dealt with properly.
Any comments on that from the panel? Too ambitious a summit? Are we going to be able to address everything?
Well, that's a good question, and I think we share our your interrogation about the scope of the summit. Actually, it's supposed to be also a milestone in the international agenda. So I'm not so surprised that it deals with many topics. But of course, we will make sure and keep it on track that there are concrete let's say they can advance on these topics, and that we see a progress, of course, in the different agendas, and also as the presenters showed, there is also a will to have some sort of a coalition of the willings on specific topics. So these are also the topics where we must be vocal and yeah, keep track on what will be the commitments. That's what I think.
Great. And to ask the question from Anneline Vos, is there any specific attention so far to financing for conflict-affected and fragile countries that are the most vulnerable to climate change in any of the working groups that we know of? Anybody want to answer that? That might be one that we can put to the ambassador and Madame Gras for sort of a follow-up. Okay. Moving on to any more questions, any more comments, any more perspectives? Alice?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alice from the Hungry for Action campaign. I guess two questions. One, in terms of, when I kind of agree there's a lot on the agenda and it's still quite hard to wrap your head around what success would look like at the end of it from a civil society point of view as much as the Elysee. Just in terms of the kind of public campaigning environment, and lots of people have spoken about advocacy and events, are there kind of, and obviously the global citizen activation is great, but are there kind of, is there a sense that there'll be like kind of stunts and things in the run up to? Is the media kind of aware and interested in it, or is that part of the kind of trying to get awareness up around? It's quite a hard one to get lots of public interest in, because it does sound quite technical, but I'm just interested in people's perspectives on the kind of, public awareness, public campaigning environment around the summit.
An interesting question. I wonder if Global Citizen did. What are they thinking as they launch the new campaign? Is it going to be focused on the summit, or is it part of the wider campaign? Is this something that they're getting engagement from supporters? Is there sort of good question? Is what traction are we getting that from people in the street, if you like?
I would let Frederic speak to the specifics, but we're definitely planning an activation in Paris on the ground, as well as running our digital campaigns and getting our global citizens behind it. I think going into this conversation and thinking around our policy outcomes and what success looks like for global citizen, we've already kind of formed some sort of a coalition with civil society organizations thinking around the policy asks and how to best position it. So there's definitely going to be like a side event and activation for global citizen, as well as having our global citizens and activists and philanthropists be part of that activation as well. Frederic, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, you said it all, Maimuna, and yeah, and we'd love also to connect with anyone who's planning activations so that we can join forces. Maybe on the previous question of what does success look like and isn't it too packed? I think this is also what we're going to do with our campaign ahead of Paris. Our campaign will run until COP28, but let's say with the first leg of the campaign, we will focus a lot on the policy outcomes that where the Paris summit has, let's say, comparative advantage. So for instance, you saw that one of our objectives is actually to push for an international solidarity tax. This is not being discussed by the G20 or anywhere else. So this is where we feel that the Paris summit can deliver something. And the other focus, I would say, and I think Guillaume and Leah would probably agree that this already took quite some pushing, is that you might have seen on the slide from the Élysée that the very first thing, the first column, when they were speaking about the objectives of the summit, had the past commitments and promises they want to deliver on. So the 100 billion in climate financing and the 100 billion in SDRs and increases in ODA. Again, I mean, obviously these questions are also being discussed elsewhere, but having progress on these ones at the Paris summit will then also facilitate or hopefully pave the way for successful negotiations in the lead up to Delhi, Marrakesh, and then Dubai. So I mean, it would be great if we see, for instance, also progress on the MDB reform and so on. I think we should push for all of this. I mean, it's better that they show ambition than the contrary. But I feel that this is maybe where the Paris summit can have a comparative advantage to other moments this year.
What I can answer also is that we start to see some media attention. It's quite low so far because we are only 2 months before the summit, but I think there is a real opportunity to be vocal on these issues, because as it will cover a lot of topics and be dealing a lot with financing for climate and development, we have opportunities, we believe, to have really good campaigning, and that may strike a general audience, because of course the discussions will be a bit technical within the working groups and so on, but the general frame of the summit will allow for more awareness raising and to remind the basic principles that we want to have in terms of financing for development and so on. Hope I've been clear.
Excellent. Thank you. And also in the chat, just to note that the Glasgow Action Team, which born out of the COP in Glasgow, but still working on climate activities, are doing some stunts and planning some stunts, and the contact email is in the chat. And a comprehensive reply from Guillaume on the working group composition. We have 10 minutes to go, but any more questions from anybody or any more comments, perspectives, open floor discussion? Never one to prolong and add, and always nice to give people their time back. And note that the Ben has said in the chat that the African development banks call for this summit to be a Gleneagles-like moment, harking back to the 2005 Gleneagles G7. But from our citizens engagement, we're quite far from that. So we have to really pull everything together in the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks to make this happen. This has been an excellent conversation. Just a couple of points, as we said before, the presentations, the documentation that Ambassador Bret referred to will be on the event site, which I've shared in the chat, which is at What World Assemblies. You can follow the links there. I will continue to maintain that and add in policy documentations and campaign information, just be a resource page for civil society for the summit. So please check that back regularly and we can update that. You'll also be able to go there and click onto the WhatsApp group for the Paris Summit. That's quite a vibrant group, focused mainly on policy at the moment, some 230 members. So if you want to join that WhatsApp group, if you have not already, the links again are on the event page at What World Assembly. We will check back in again regularly through the WhatsApp group, update the site. I'm not entirely sure we'll have another briefing because we're into the final stretch for the summit itself, but we like to keep the conversation going through the WhatsApp group as well as through your reports and your excellent work in the lead up to that. Federica, do you want to have any final words on this or any next steps?
No, just a big thank you from me, and yes, stay in touch. Cal, you said the WhatsApp is at the moment very policy focused, but we have opportunities in terms of campaigning. So I think we should definitely use it also for any actions that are being planned. Thanks all.
Very much so. Well, thanks all for your time. Good luck on your advocacy and campaigning on the road to Paris, and good luck to our French colleagues for their continued engagement and driving this forward. And once again, thanks everyone for your time, and speak soon.